Welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. My name is Agnes van Rhijn, and I'm a life and business success mentor to female entrepreneurs and small business owners who want to take back control of their life because their business is completely ruling it. I'm also the founder and the host of the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. And today it is my privilege to be interviewing Jasmine MBye, who specializes in women's empowerment and gives ambitious professional and entrepreneurial women the tools to excel. A challenging childhood left Jasmine ineffective, dimming her light and blocking her own success. Embarking on a journey to free herself and become her best, along with developing her expertise and researching, resulted in Jasmine creating the Shine Out method. Welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show, Jasmine. How are you?
I'm fine, and thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here.
It's very interesting for me because I really know nothing about you. So for once, it's a real surprise, and we're going to unfold your story as we go. So why don't you tell us more about you?
Right. Well, I have been in training and development for the last 12 years. But I came into that through, as you mentioned, having gone on my own personal journey. I am the only child that my mother has and the eldest of 4 daughters for my dad. And my mum had had quite a difficult childhood herself. And she did her absolute best and she did love me. But unfortunately, the challenges that she went through meant that I incurred a lot of abuse in my childhood that really broke me down as a person, but I learned to wear a mask. I learned to cover it really well so that most people who knew me didn't have a clue. And I got to that point in life where I just became aware of how ineffective I was. I would do things that I just couldn't quite understand. I would push people away, and there were lots of things about me that I didn't get. And professionally, I began to feel quite lost. I just started thinking, what do I do with my life? And I love talking and I loved people, and thought, okay, well, that leads me to becoming a trainer. Got into that. And through that time became really clear on just how damaged I'd been from my childhood. So just began working on myself to rebuild myself and just to learn to be myself, actually embrace who I was and be comfortable with that. And in that time of me developing me, I also was developing professionally. So I would go on courses and development programs that helped me find out more about myself. And I was like, this is why I'm that way. That's why I do this. And now I understand that about myself. So it was a kind of combined personal and professional journey that I'd gone on. And it enabled me to become a whole person rather than someone who was really fragmented and somewhat dysfunctional and just wearing a massive mask. And that really led me to connect with people authentically, honestly. I started to reveal who I was, and I was quite surprised in that I wasn't judged by people. They didn't view me as being less than. They in fact connected with me at some point. And that's where I started to see that there are many women out there who could relate to some of the challenges that I had. We had confidence issues, and they didn't have the same childhood as me necessarily, but they still struggled. And that's why I just kind of started looking around and thinking, these are fantastic women, but they're just not kind of quite out there and doing their thing and achieving as much as they could because they still have some hurdles that they need to overcome. So that really is in a nutshell kind of my journey that I went on to get to that point of saying, you know what, I'm going to do me, I'm going to be me. And I'm going to, do the best that I can, be the best that I can. And I embarked on that journey, never-ending journey of development, which is constant, absolutely constant. I'm sure you would agree with that.
It's a lifetime process.
Yeah. So, that's really my story.
Jasmine, before we go any further, could you double check maybe your headset, maybe replug it, because it sounds to be coming and going. If I can
right
that way.
Yeah, can you hear me clearly now?
I do. So let's see what it does. If it is better. So yes, as you mentioned, yes, we all have a story, and it's really very interesting. And I see it in particular with the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. I meet so many amazing women. But the interesting thing with that is that quite often they think they're the only one experiencing whatever it is that they're experiencing.
Yes.
And by sharing our stories, we help other women start seeing, hey, wait a moment, I'm not the only one. I'm
That's
not
right.
the only one. Yeah. So great for you to do that too. So if we rewind a little bit, I'm trying to understand the history, if you prefer.
Yeah.
So what were you doing professionally at that time? Were you already from the start a trainer? How did that unfold?
I was in a supervisory position, so training was part of what I was doing, but it wasn't the main focus of it. I was working in a music-related industry, collecting some royalties for music usage. So I was a supervisor and managed the team there. And I thought, what's my next step? And thought, I don't necessarily want to proceed any higher up the ladder, because actually I really want to connect with people. And thought about my role, thought about where I get my greatest job satisfaction, and realized that it's not, the money, I like to earn money, but it's not the money, it's not the pat on the backs from management. I derived real go home, smile, feel life's worth living kind of satisfaction when I saw the members of my team grow. And that's why I thought, there's no amount of money that you could give me for this. In particular, as a lady actually on my website, we worked together, and through my coaching and development, she went from being someone who would not speak in a team meeting. I mean, she just wouldn't. And this was a team that she was working with every day. But simply because we were in a team meeting, she wouldn't speak. And then we'd come out and she'd have all these ideas and she was talking. I'm just like, I don't get it. And, through working with her and developing her, she went from being that woman to one who led the team meetings.
Excellent.
And, you think now that is joy, that is satisfaction. And she, in fact, went on to increase her role in life to become an international distribution manager. And I was like, now that's when you feel great, because you have helped someone begin to soar, or as I say, begin to shine.
I definitely can share that feeling too. That's what motivates me.
Yeah, exactly.
Giving them the possibility to live their life to its full potential, for me is really my driver. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I like is that from that place they can then become role models for others. And
exactly.
Excellent. So given this show is all about making things happen, the idea is also to share a bit the journey, the challenges, and what is it that you're very proud of, that you have succeeded in, but what did you find hard, and how did you handle that?
So for me, at that point of realizing, this is what I want to do, I then was like, right, I want to become a trainer. And there wasn't everyone jumping to get me to become a trainer. So the first challenge was actually to get my foot in that door. And I literally was given a secondment at one point, and I was like, fantastic, was able to do that. And then it came to an end. And I expressed my desire to continue doing some training and was promptly told no. And I'm quite a bold character in that if I believe it, I'm going to go with it. And I actually was like, okay, that's it. I'm handing in my notice, and I'm going to go and find me a training role. And the director of the company was like, you can't do this. You can't leave. Like, you haven't even got anything to go to. I was like, no, but I'm just going to take my chances and go. And she actually refused my resignation. And I was like, well, that's it. She's like, okay, no. I was like, okay, I'll come back on Monday and confirm that I'm resigning. I'll think about it as you're requesting. Went back and confirmed. And from that confirmation, I think it took 2 or 3 days for that director to come back and offer me a training position. So that was one of... Yes, exactly. They actually created a trainer role for me.
How many years ago are we talking about, more or less?
We're talking about 2007. 2007.
So one of the things I would definitely point out to the listeners is that nowadays I would not recommend that you resign. without any backup solution.
Times have changed.
Even if you're dreaming of something big, make sure that you have something to
fall back on.
To fall back on, absolutely.
Agreed, because times have definitely changed since then. So that was one of the real kind of turning points. And from that, I became qualified as a trainer, because I was told to list my requirements that I'd want to take a training position. And I'd requested that I become certified as a trainer and stuff like that. So managed to get a training qualification and went out and started delivering training as a full-time trainer. And shortly after that, thought, right, I'm going to do my own business. I want to help women develop. And in that instance, it was in the interview skills and kind of confidence, all around job seeking though. Yeah. And I went and created brochures and this, and I think I even did a website, and I failed to actually think about the programs that I was going to deliver. So did a launch event and then kind of went, oh, what am I actually going to do? Because I didn't think it through.
You remind me of someone.
So I promptly fell flat on my face because I hadn't thought it through. Okay. Thankfully, I had joined the church that was all about personal development. And I was listening to a bishop called Bishop Wayne Malcolm. I still attend that church now, and he's a fantastic preacher. And he really educates you. And he must have known somehow that I was making these blunders. You know, at least I was trying. And he was saying, you know, whenever you do something, you need to start with the end in mind and work your way backwards. And that was really helpful for me, because I had the drive, I had the desire, but I didn't have the strategy. That was where I was seriously lacking. So I then kind of had to go back and take stock of the fact that I had this great desire and I really wanted to have my own business, but I hadn't really invested the time to think things through and to create the right structure for it to happen. And that then built upon my journey, because it caused me to look at myself further and to see what is it that I need to kind of draw upon to make an authentic business that would really touch people in the way that I wanted to, and who was it that I really wanted to reach out and connect to. So actually the initial business, I don't think it was just for women. It was more just, you know, interview skills and kind of stuff like that related to job seeking. So then I started to really kind of connect even further with my story, with my journey. And that's where I started to get clear on the fact that I wanted to work with women, and I wanted to help women to develop so that they could own who they are and really go into the world and allow themselves to shine, allow who they are and what they have to shine out. That's my philosophy, because I believe that we all have unique, beautiful, you know, perfectly imperfect. That's one of the phrases I love. You know, we have some great strengths. We also have weaknesses. And when we're aware of these, we are enabled to go forward and make an impact in the world that really is true to who we are and in line with who we are. And that, like you said a moment ago, empowers others to do the same, because they think, well, you've done it and you're not pretending to be perfect.
The Rebalance.
Yeah, exactly. You're showing me that you're not perfect, which then tells me that I can do it too. So that was one of my big blunders that I made. And even, you know, more recently, when I was launching up my business, my initial brand was Love the Lady in the Mirror, and it wasn't quite landing very well. And I wasn't connecting with the audience that I really wanted to. So I had to go on a rebranding exercise, and now Shine Out, you know, it's connecting much better, and the branding, it's in line with me and with who I'm targeting. So those are some of the challenges that I've been on personally as well as professionally, which I'm sure you can relate to.
It's so funny, because I wrote on my website, my About Me page, a few years ago. I don't remember exactly when. I updated it something like 2 years ago, I would say. So I haven't read it. And I just happened to have read it again 2-3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And what you're describing, it's black and white there. You know, I was a director of administration in the corporate world. So, I mean, I definitely had all the tools, you know, strategy, blah, blah, blah. And I just went for my passion. Vroom. And then I went, vroom. Exactly what you described. And once I realized that I wasn't treating my business as a business, then I thought, maybe I do have some expertise that I could use there. And
it's amazing.
It's so often
Yes.
that I was going to say ladies, because indeed I do also work mainly with women, tend to treat their business as an expensive hobby. They forget, because they're passionate about what they do, that it still is a business. If you want to make something out of it, whatever your perception of success is, it doesn't matter. It still is a business. So I definitely can relate to that. And as a personal branding expert as well, what you're expressing, it is absolutely stuff that needs to be done at the start. You need to be clear about what you want to achieve, and who you want to do it for, and how you want to do it, etc. So good for you. And I did reposition a few times as well. I started working with the corporate world as an executive coach, and took me 8 years to realize that I've never liked it. So
wow.
You know, then I decided, well, I mean, we tend to, you must have experienced that as well. We tend to cheat with ourselves. We tend to tell stories, excuses. And the reality of that for me was that I had fear of financial insecurity. And because I was in France, where they were behind in terms of coaching. Coaching was not for individuals, it was only for corporate world. So that's where you make money.
Okay. Yeah. And I do agree with you. We often, especially as women, we need to give ourselves permission to prefer things and to dislike things and say, actually, that's not really what I want. I prefer this, and to go for it. But we do, I think, a lot more than men tend to. We need to say, that's okay.
Yeah.
And then go and do it. Yeah.
So the next challenge, because I'm sure you must have had others.
Yeah, I have. I've had many. When it comes to challenges, one of mine was learning to balance things, because I've always been someone who is driven and sometimes without wisdom. So, and also based on experiences we learn from our childhood, you know, about boundaries and stuff like that. And because of my childhood, I've always had a great deal of responsibility, or felt a great deal of responsibility upon myself. And that's something that I've carried with me. And I regularly have to check that I'm not allowing or even encouraging and taking on too much. So I was going along, you know, doing my training and working on my business ideas and trying to do all these different things, you know, on my relationship. And I wasn't doing my preferred things. I was doing the things that I thought I should do. I was doing the things how I thought they should be done. So it was the shoulds, you know, overriding the desires. And I got to a point of driving one day thinking, okay, do I go to the doctor and tell the doctor, I think I'm going to have a breakdown? Or do I wait until I have the breakdown, because then it's evidence that I have broken down? Because I can't take anymore.
Yeah.
And I literally just remember driving to church one day, and little things like I had moved and my church had moved. So the journey from where I lived to get to my church, I would rush home from work, jump in my car, and then, you know, be battling against the traffic to try and get to church on time. And it was like, okay, well, do I just go straight from work to church? Because that's a lot easier. But then I'd be coming home really late on the tube and the trains. And that's not really quite ideal for a single woman, you know, traveling in and around London, you know, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Plus you've got work the next day. So it was like, I'm doing these things and they just weren't really working for me. But it took me to get to that point. And I think it was also brought on by the fact that I had a big birthday coming up, for me to stop and think, right, what am I going to do with my life? Because this isn't working. And actually, I think another key thing was I broke my leg at that time.
Telling you stop.
Exactly. And that really helps you to stop
running
and reflect on where am I. And I remember reading a magazine and looking at the life wheel and the 8 areas of life, and it asking you to rate them. And when I did my ratings, I realized there was no area of my life that I was even 5 out of 5 happy with.
Wow.
So I was in a really bad place, and it took me still a little more time to actually go, right, this is it. I've got to make these changes. But that really made me very aware of where I was. And then I kind of, in that instance of the car, just thought, I've got to make some changes, and proceeded to look at my life and make some major changes. I ended my relationship because I realized it wasn't working for me. I then also changed roles. And I think at that point as well, I changed church, another major change for me, and just felt a kind of a lightness beginning to come into my life. But I think based on who we are, we will have tendencies. And for me, that's one of my tendencies. So even recently, I had to look at myself and think, okay, Jazz, and I do things called a self-discovery session. So, I practice what I preach, do it on myself.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I've got to make some changes because I am doing too much. It's stressing me out. So I've got to rebalance things, and
yeah.
make some changes.
I remember at some point I wrote a blog article about that. We are so good at leaving a rat race to reproduce it ourselves.
Yes.
To start another one, and that's the women that I work with who have completely lost control of their life and business, because in fact it's the business that's completely ruling it.
Yeah,
it's rush, no room for any form of self-care whatsoever, and because women tend to always position themselves last.
That's right.
They're gonna care of everyone. So I definitely definitely it resonates. Yes, absolutely. But it's a very female tendency. Yeah,
definitely. And for me, I've identified that that's something that I need to regularly keep on top of, keep check, because that's something that I'm inclined to take on and then think, hold on a minute, no, it's gonna right, let's just balance things out here. So the women that I work with are women that I relate to, I think pretty much like yourself. I've been there, I've walked the journey, and I've not just from a study perspective of this is what should be done, but from a very personal perspective as well. I've married the two together, and I've tried this stuff out, and I've seen the difference that it really can make when you live a more clarified, confident and resilient life. So
what's interesting also in what you're saying, and I really would want to point at that for the viewers, is that as you indicated, we are not perfect, and we don't need to be perfect. And so yes, we also, as coaches, as mentors, etc., we fall back to things, and then because we are probably in a higher level of consciousness, of awareness, we are quicker to recognize it, and then we can take actions. But it's a continuous process. That's what you said at the start. It's a life process.
Exactly.
So it is absolutely normal. Don't give up. That if suddenly you have the feeling you go off track, that you just get yourself on track again.
Exactly. And that's it, because life happens. One of the things that has become really clear and aware to me is we learn, and we need to relearn what we've learned on each level in life. So I learn a certain level of confidence, a certain level of resilience, and then I kind of raise the bar and go to another level, and it's like great, but then some more challenges come. And it's like, whoa, so you're going to have to relearn what you know to apply it to the level that you're at. So you're right. We as coaches, as trainers, and as mentors, we are going through the exact same things, but we've just got the skill to consciously identify things that bit sooner, so we can just nip it in the bud. And we've got an idea of, okay, if I do X, Y, Z, I should be getting the results that I'm looking for. So completely agree with you there. Not about perfection. No one ever gets there. I think that's key to understand.
And it would be so boring.
True, very true. It would be extremely boring world if we were all perfect. Yeah, you're right.
So Jasmine, I'm conscious of time. Before I forget, tell us where we can find you, and if there's anything special that you want to mention about you and your work.
Okay, so I can be found at my website, www.jasmine, Jasm for mother, INE, and then surname MBye, M for mother, BYE. That's all together, .co.uk. You can find out more about me and more about what I do. I do have some specials about to come out, actually, September special I've got going on for the self-discovery session that I mentioned a moment ago. And that's where we look at your belief system and we look at your lifestyle and we find out if they are enabling you to progress as effectively, professionally and personally as you desire. Are you on course for exhaustion or burnout? Are you doing things that are actually counterproductive? And why? If we can understand the why, we can often tweak these things. So that's what the self-discovery session does, excuse me.
So to use a typical coach expression, who are your ideal clients? What are the women you like to work with and you feel you're at best?
I am best working with the ambitious professional or entrepreneurial woman who has that tendency to try and achieve the world, basically. You have so many desires, dreams, goals. So you're going out there, you're trying to make it happen. But sometimes the clarity around those goals may not be very clear, or your execution in trying to achieve them may not be yielding you the results that you're quite looking for. So it's all about helping these women to develop the clarity, the confidence, and the resilience to achieve greater success, achieve their goals, achieve their dreams. So those are the kind of ladies that I'm interested in working with. Those that, you know, they've got it, but they're still maybe hesitant to really step out of their comfort zone and do it. Because I think women don't necessarily struggle with confidence as a whole. They can be quite competent confidence.
Yeah.
I know I can do that, but the self-confidence can be lacking.
That's really it. Yeah.
And then they're not putting themselves out there to really allow that competence to show. So these are the kind of ladies that I like to work with. And the self-discovery session is a great starting point. So currently, you know, there's a discount of between £15 to £45 off a self-discovery session. So yeah, great to check out on my website. I've also got, actually, before I go, I've also got an event coming up on the 24th of September called Get Out Your Own Way. So it's all about helping women.
Because we're the only ones standing in our way in reality.
It's only you and yes, only I can really stop our success. So we just need to get out of our own way and allow ourselves to shine. So yeah, that event comes out, or rather it's taking place on the 24th of September. Once again, you can find it on my website.
Excellent, excellent. I love this. As usual, this is music to my ears. I do believe that, well, you know how I feel about women doing the same type of work. I believe in collaboration, not in competition. There's not enough of us to help all the women who need us.
Yeah.
So this is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, excellent. So for the viewers and listeners, because there's also a audio version of the interview, if you too want to take back control of your life, and so that you can have the business that allows you to have the life you desire and that you deserve, by the way, whatever that success means to you, you can come to my website and get a free discovery consultation. And my website is agnesvanrhijn.com, so the usual www.anyesvanrhijn.com. Jasmine, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And yes, I really enjoyed this. Thank you for allowing me to come and be part of your show.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.